create a video that looks at creating a base map for a site, and we'll look at all the online tools that you can do that. So you could do this two ways. You can import from a drone a point cloud map, and you can import that into VectorWorks, and it's really detailed if you have a drone. And it's, if you want really precise topographical information, it's probably the best way to do it. But the problem is, if you import that into VectorWorks, the trees and the ground are all treated as terrain points. So it doesn't differentiate the ground from trees. So you have to go through that map and cut out all the trees from your point cloud if you want to use that as your base map. So I'm going to show you the alternative method using GoogleEarth Pro, and that cuts out the need to edit your map. It's not as precise as what you'd get from the drone, but it's a lot easier to handle. And particularly if you've got a really big site, or a site where the minute changes in the topography isn't a big deal. So it might be flat, or you just don't need that information to such a fine level of detail. GoogleEarth Pro is the best way to go. So I'll share my screen. And can you see that now?
Yep.
I'll just mention one thing before I start, is a university sites. Disappeared. Hopefully it's on one of my bookmarks here. I don't think that's it. Let me just check. No, that's not right. That's where you'd sign in once you set up your, so once you've registered with VectorWorks and you've got your username and your password, you can sign up there, and that's where you get your license from. But this is the university. So once you've, so it's university.vectorworks.net, and that will give you access to a whole bunch of really useful resources. So if I go to the courses, you can fine tune it. So if you want to fine tune it to landscapes, which is what's most relevant to us, and maybe classes or webinars, and beginner. So that gives you a really good range of resources from experts in the industry to go to, and that's probably the best. Oh, looks like an interesting one here. That's probably the best place to go to get familiar with the platform of VectorWorks and what it can do and applying it to particular things. But what I'll try to focus on this, these little seminars, training videos, is particular skills that are not well covered on that platform that relate specifically to permaculture design and creating a landscape type design. So the first one, as I mentioned, was creating a map from GoogleEarth Pro. So if you Google search GoogleEarth Pro download, it has to be the Pro version to do this. And once you've got the download, open it up. Now I could do this on a random site, or if you guys prefer, I could do it on a site that's relevant to one of your sites. But if I do it on your site, it would be part of the training video from then on. So shall I do it on a random site, or would it be useful to do it on one of your sites?
I don't mind if you want to do it on mine.
Okay, what's the address?
625 Upper Petone Road.
Upper Petone?
Yeah, Pitone.
Is that right?
Oh, I can't see. I'm just on my phone. It's a bit too small.
Oh, fair enough. Okay. All right, we'll see.
Hey, what happened?
Taranaki.
Yep, looking good. Oh yeah, there we are. There's the lovely dirt bike track across the road. Yeah, that's me.
So that's at the section there.
Yep.
I don't know if you can see on your phone. Okay, so I'll do a couple of things here. I'll do a little snip. Again, if you what I've been actually doing is creating with the drone map, you get a more detailed map and just using it as reference. So I've found, because my site's 600 hectares that I'm designing at the moment, I'm finding trying to cut out all the trees on a 600 hectare site a bit overwhelming, and because I don't need such a fine level of detail on that, so I'm just doing a snip of your site. So I just did a screen grab, and I'm going to save that on my desktop. So I'm going to use that in the VectorWorks to locate things. So what I'm initially going to do is create the terrain model, and then I'm going to line it all up to this map here, and then use this as the reference for locating things on the terrain model. Because in VectorWorks, you're going to recreate all the trees and buildings and tracks and any new features. And what you need to do in this kind of context is create a template which has got everything that is existing on it. And then on different layers, you can show what are the new features that you're going to introduce. Or you can even have layers for each thing, like trees and tracks and buildings, and you can differentiate it into different, what are they called? Classes. So you can have layers and classes, and in those classes, you can have existing and new. So, and you can link them into a spreadsheet that calculates the volumes and lengths of all those features. And then in that spreadsheet, you can price out what the cost is for planting, or for creating the roads, or for creating the building. And then you can keep track of that. And then, since it's all linked to your design, anything you change in that design will automatically update that spreadsheet. So you can do different scenarios, and you can cost them all out, and you can see which one you like. And you can do little trial runs on different types of production. And once you've got some data on the output of those production, you can then again put it into the spreadsheet and cost out, how much it is to set it all up, and you see which type of design would suit best. So it gives you that flexibility to trial different scenarios. So instead of hand drawing each one separately, you can just quite quickly go into the settings in VectorWorks and change the composition of the trees, or the type of track, or the type of fence, and it will automatically update all the costings associated with it, as well as create a 2D and 3D model that you can then import into a report to show someone. Okay, so far this is just the 2D map for your site. And I'm going to take a measurement as well, and when you import it into VectorWorks, I can scale the model that I create and that image that I've just taken the screen grab of, based on a measurement that I take from GoogleEarth. So up on the top, there's a ruler, and if I select that and take it from the corner of the site, to the corner of the fence line there. So that's 132 meters, 132.48 meters. So I can use that to scale these things when I import them into VectorWorks. Okay, so to create the terrain model, what you do is you go up, and there's these little 3 dots here with a plus, which is adding a path. And you get a little pop-up. It came up on my extra screen, but this is the name of the path, and it will create a file when you're finished with the name that you do it here. But I'll create the path first. And what you do is you just push down with your mouse and create these points. Once there it is. So each one of these points is a geo-referenced point on the map, which will give you the latitude, the longitude, and the elevation of each one of these points. So if you do this on a site, you'll basically get a whole bunch of these points for your site. And because
Sorry, what have you clicked on to get to this? Which
up on
icon?
the top, the very top of Google Earth Pro, there's three kind of hexagonal looking shapes joined together. And when you click on that, there's add path. And there's different versions of Google Earth Pro, different versions of Google Earth, and sometimes it can take a bit of hunting around on Google to find the right version, because you need the Google Earth Pro to have those options. And I found it a bit tricky initially. I was downloading the wrong version of Google Earth, and it's only the Pro version that gives you that option. So you just got to make sure you get the right one. But yeah, the benefit, I think Google Earth is accurate to 10 meters, but every one of these points will give me an elevation point to create that terrain model, but it's just not as accurate as what you get from a drone, which is 1 centimeter. It does seem though, when I create the model using this, it's more accurate than 10 meters, but that's what I've heard in the past. But the good part of that is that all these trees therefore won't show up, and the LiDAR system that they use to create these maps too goes right through trees to the ground, so it doesn't recognize trees as ground points, so they don't interfere with the terrain model.
Just when you say about doing it from a drone, you mean actually hiring someone to go and fly your property? Yeah,
because there are, if you just Google it, you'll be able to find the clubs that, drone user clubs. I'll create another little resource in the course to do with drones and how to use them, and the different clubs and different things to know about using drones, because I did a drone course with the aviation school at Massey, and they went through all those kind of details, which were quite insightful to know about. So I'll replicate some of those things that are most useful in our context for using drones. But yes, as the short answer, you can hire someone to use a drone, and there's a whole bunch of different programs. I use Drone Deploy, and when you do that, you can you open up Drone Deploy and you do an outline of the site you want to map, and your drone will just automatically fly it, and then you process it in Drone Deploy, and it will create 2D and 3D maps for you, and you can import the point cloud version into VectorWorks, and it will create a terrain model. But as I say, it treats trees as ground points. So if you've got a lot of trees, it's probably best not to use it. It's probably better to use Google Earth. But it gives you really accurate map, which is quite helpful. Okay, so that'll be enough. And you can spend a bit longer doing it and get more points, but each one of those points will be used to create a terrain model. So I'll name this as null site. Okay. Now, there it is. So on your left of the screen, you'll have the different files that you've created. So if you right click on mouse sites, or whatever you named it as, and go save place as. So I'll save it to my desktop too, and I'll just call it mouse site. And it's a KNZ file, which is a type of geo-reference file. And the trick is, so that's probably all we need from Google Earth. We need the latitude, longitude, and elevation points. We need a measurement of distance that we can use to scale it, and we need the 2D map. So once we've done that, we don't need it, so we'll shut it down.
And what do you do when you're using a drone? Because I don't have many trees on the property, and there's a lot of detailed contouring that it'll probably be better to use a drone. And I know someone with one, so that's good. But yeah, how do you figure out the latitude and
It's all part of the map. So yeah, I can't. So even the information that comes off Google Earth Pro, you can see all those information points, but a point cloud doesn't give you a list of all those points. So I'm not quite sure is the answer to that. It doesn't give you a list like you get from Google Earth, but the information is in there, but I'm just not sure how it displays. But once you import it, it will be automatically all scaled appropriately because it has all of that information in it. But to make sure, once you import it into VectorWorks, you can scale it anyway by taking a measurement of Google Earth and just checking that it is created a map or a 3D object of the correct dimensions. You can just scale it off Google Earth.
okay.
To give you an idea, these are different sites that I've done on with drones. And you can do, so yeah, this is a more detailed 2D map. So this is a 600 hectare site, but it gives you really accurate information. So if you want to design something, it's really useful for that. And then I'll do the 3D map. Hold on. I think it is expired. It doesn't allow me to do it anymore. Oh, maybe here. So I can't export it anymore because my thing's expired, but I've already done that already. But this is the 3D kind of map that you get from VectorWorks. So once you've drone mapped everything, and it will create this 3D model that you can see everything nicely in 3D. So it gives you a really nice kind of representation. So again, a huge site, but you can really see the details. But you see how these trees are like treating them like the terrain. So, that might be sufficient. You might not, with working with a client, for example, you might just use these maps initially to describe, what you're going to do in this paddock, and you can have these 3D goggles that you put on and you can actually see it all in 3D, which is quite cool. But yeah, you can work with someone and you can go, yeah, what kind of things can we do on this? And you can discuss different ideas and you can sketch it all out. And you can do all that kind of initial phase before starting to design things. Or you might decide that that's enough. You can actually work with someone using these and then just hand draw it. You don't actually need to use VectorWorks. But there are benefits to doing a design in 3D. And then once you do it in VectorWorks, you'll get a similar 3D map that will look like this, but everything will be computer generated. So all the trees will be computer generated 3D trees, and you can change their composition if you're working with someone into different types.
Okay.
That's what drone deploy looks like. And you can, once you've uploaded them, so you go to upload and you can upload all your photos, and then you can go to export 3D models, JPEG maps, elevation, geo. So these are all the different things that you can export from the site. So I'll go to, what was I going to go to now? So what I need to do now is take the information from Google Earth and, translate it into a text file that I can import into VectorWorks. So I need this program called GPS GPS visualizer. So it's all one word, gpsvisualizer.com. And it's a Z because it's an American site, visualizer with a Z. And this allows you to translate geo-reference files into different forms. So I'll open up the here it is, the Mel site here. And I'll convert it to a plain text file. And download it. I'll put that on my desktop. But yeah. So it's a GPX file. I thought it was a text file. I'll just do it one more time and just check. CamZ file, convert it to plain text, convert and add elevation. Yeah, so I didn't do that. I didn't press that button, which was convert and add elevation. So now it's a text file now. So that's what I wanted. So I'll get it off my downloads and put it on my desktop. Okay, so that's the one there. So I'll just rename that as Mel data. Okay, so now it's all ready to import into VectorWorks. So if I open up VectorWorks, and it takes quite a lot of processing data, VectorWorks, because it's you know, all these 3D files, and the bigger the site, the more data there is. So it pays to invest in a good computer with a good processor to if you want to do it. But even just to play with it and to do your site, you might be able to just rent a computer or borrow a computer or use your library computer just to do if it's just your site. And it's a student version, so the version you guys get is a student version. So it allows you to do everything, but it just has a watermark on it which says student version on it. So if you're going to charge someone for it professionally, it wouldn't look good having that student version on it. So that's just their way to make sure that if you want to do it professionally, you've got to pay for it. And then it costs about $3,000 a year at least to access the VectorWorks. And then you've got to get the new versions each year as well. So it's only, you've got to pay that almost every year that you want to use it. And if you want to use Drone Deploy, that costs about $400 a month or about $3,000 a year too. So they're quite expensive, these programs, because they're used, you know, by the industry professionals. So they're quite expensive to use. But what I use with Drone Deploy is line up a whole bunch of sites that I want to map and then just pay for 1 month and just do them all together, because you're going to spend many months afterwards playing around with all the data and making the maps. So you don't really need a whole year's subscription. You just pay for a little month by month. Okay, so what I want, so this is what it looks like, and you've got all these different things that are, you can, on the left-hand side, this is, this whole setup is for Landmark. There's different versions of VectorWorks. There's Landmark and other ones. I think when you download it, you can specify that you want the Landmark version, and then you'll get all these tools which are specific to Landmark. Oh, but here it is. Under Tools and Workspaces, you can also select which workstation you want. And you want the Landmark one because that will give you all these specific tools that are used for landscape design, like creating fences and trees and pathways and all these specific things for that. Otherwise, they'll give you all the tools for buildings or different things. So you've got your tools for creating objects like squares and lines and editing those squares and lines and pathways and things. And then these are objects. And instead of just a line, it will create a path. So it will assign attributes to that line, which make it a path. And then you can change what that path looks like or what that fence looks like. Or you can create landscape areas which are plantings of trees. And by going into the composition of that, you can change what type of trees are in there and the spacing of them and the layering of them. And once you put it on your design, you can then go into the properties again and change that composition, and then it will change everything on your design. So it's a really handy way to change things really easily. But what we're doing today is we're creating a model. So if we go to landmark and we go to survey import, and then go to import survey file. We'll go to so we want that text file. Where did it go? Where did it go? Maybe it's still on my downloads. That's strange.
Do you want the text? Yeah.
Flying, couldn't see it. Meld data for VectorWorks. There we go. So we want to select create 3D locus objects, and we want the units to be meters, and we want latitude, longitude, and elevation. Actually, sorry, there's one more thing. I'll just edit this file in Excel first, which will be useful anyway because you'll see what the file holds. Why I'm doing this, I'll show you in a minute. So yeah, so this is all that data that I exported from VectorWorks, and it's just got a few extra bits of information that will confuse VectorWorks because all it wants is numbers, and the first line of this has got titles. It's latitude, longitude, and altitude. I'll just write that down to make sure it has them listed in the right sequence in VectorWorks. So latitude, longitude, and altitude. I don't need that, so I'll delete that. And I don't need either of those two. And I don't need the title. And if I do include them, because they're text data, it will confuse VectorWorks. So I'll just save that again over the top of the other one. All right, cool. So you just gotta, there's a few little tricks there to convert things and make sure it doesn't confuse it. All right, so go again, import survey file, so meters, create 3D locus objects, and then you can check this first line of data has the particular information. It's not any text there, it's just numbers. And it's got latitude, longitude, and altitude. So that's fine, that's all good. And go to OK. Okay, so it's created it over here. So I'm going to select it. What I want to do is have it on my page, but I'll just select all the data there. And what you want to do is create these things on different layers. So when you work on an object, such as any of these trees or pathways or a 3D object like this, you'll have this panel here, which is object information. And what I like to do is put them into different layers. So here you can see all your layers there, and where we can design layer there. So I'm just going to rename that as base map. And then that's just the way of keeping track that if you're adding trees, for example, you're working on a layer with trees, not on the one with base map. Otherwise, you start editing the wrong things in your model. So you just got to organize things a little bit like that too. Now what I want to do is edit this. So I'm going into, this is the design layers and the base map one. I'm going to go to right click and edit it. And it comes up with some information on that layer. Why I did that is because I need to make sure it's geo-referenced. If I don't do that, if I don't make it geo-referenced, it's going to twist this data around and it's going to display it in weird ways. But if I make it geo-referenced, I'll make sure that north is north and that the map's not all stretched out or something, because it's scaling it all correctly to New Zealand geo-referencing coordinates. So to make it, so georeference will make sure north is north, but to make sure it's New Zealand, I want to go into advanced georeferencing. And to edit, no, I'll do a custom. So I'll do yes, there we go. So if you do the custom settings, I can do the New Zealand one. So if I hit that drop down there, it's got the New Zealand one. I like to use the 2000 one. It looks a little bit more recent. I don't know if that is years, but it looks better. Do not transform this layer's geometry. Move and rotate all geometry as a group. Sometimes you don't want to do it as a group because there's different things, but in this case, there's only that one layer, so I'll select that. Everything else looks good, so I'll go to OK. Here you can change the scale of the base map. I'll just leave that for now, just because it doesn't look that big compared to my once you've imported your survey file here, it can locate it quite far away from where your page is, which is quite annoying and can make it hard to find. So if you select your object, the way to locate it back into your page again is to select this Move by Point tool, which is the arrow with these two rectangles there, and select your object once, and then try to line up with 2 zeros, because that's where the page is going to be. So on the top and on the side, that's it there. It's highlighted yellow, the 0, 0. And I'll click again, and it will move that object to where my page is. Looks like I need to move it a little bit more. So I'll select it again, and move it again. And there, that's the survey file there. It's going to be a lot bigger than the page. You can see the page outline here. That's just because of the size of it. You'll need to decide on a suitable scale to make it fit. So if you go into the edit setting here, we can select a scale that's a good one. So this is 1 to 200, and it's still a bit too large, so I'll go to 1 to 500. And that shrinks it down, still a bit too large, so I'll scale it down a bit more. 1 to 1,000 maybe. And what you're trying to do is get this object to line up to the orientation of the page. That's quite good. Now what you can also do is change the setup of the page to better fit what you're trying to map. So if I go to File and Page Setup, I can select the page size I want here. So I'm going to go for an A3 size page there. And if I just swap these orientations around, it will be a landscape view. So this one will be 297 and the bottom one 420. Yep, around. Let's change that again. Yeah, okay, so that's a good landscape size there. So if I just move this a little bit more, that's quite nicely lined up in the center of my page there. So I can print off an A3 size page now, and the landscape is going to fit inside it. What I'll do now is I'll import the image of the site too. So if I go to File and Import and just an image file. And that's the Mel site image file there. If you import it as a PNG, the resolution's better. It's 865 kilobytes there, which will be better. And do that. It's looks like it's a bit bigger. So this is where the sizing of the site comes in handy that we did earlier in Google Maps. So first we can size the diagram, the image that we imported to what it should be. And what we want to do is go to Edit, Modify, Scale Objects. And we select these arrows here. And we want that point there to the corner of the fence, that point there to be. So this is what it's currently. What we want it to be is 132 meters, and it's just measuring it in millimeters here, so I'll just convert it to millimeters. And that looks like it's quite nicely matched up to the map now. So I'll just put this on a different layer. So if I select this map, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer here. So I'm going to call this layer map layer. And I want to make sure this scale, the scale on it is the same as this other one. So this scale was 1 to 1,000. So make sure the map layer is also 1 to 1,000. So that's right, it's already 1 to 1,000. So you want to make sure that all your layers are of the same scale. And then I'll go back to my base map. And I'll select that image and I'll send it. I'll just cut it and go to my map layer. And I'll paste it there. Now what I want to do is line it up to the map layer, so I'll make sure that both are visible at the same time. And if I go to the map layer, I can change its transparency. So at the moment it's 100%. And if I reduce it, I can start to see the map underneath it so that I can line the two objects up. And what you're trying to find is a point from the map that matches the site here. So you can see where the site curls around here. So that's where on the map it starts to curl around there. So I'll just shift the corner of that site onto there. And I can fine tune it later, but that looks like it's matched up quite well now. And then I'll cut out the outside of the map to match the outside of the site. Now from this base map, what I want to be able to do is create a terrain model from it. So I'll grab all the data points on it and go up to landmark and go to create a site model from the source data. And here's the different aspects that you can change to do it. So every 2 meters, there's going to be a minor interval, and every 20 meters, a major interval. So I'm going to make that a bit smaller, so it's a bit more finer detail. So every half a meter, there's now a minor interval, and every 5 meters, there's a major interval, which will be better. I'll go to OK. And now it's creating this terrain map from the site. And you can see the terrain model in different aspects by going up to the top. You're looking at the top view there, but you can look at the right isometric or left isometric, and that gives you a better sense of the topography changes there. I'll go back to 2D view. And that's the first part of your design. So getting your base terrain map and the map from GoogleEarth and getting them all lined up. And then you've got the elements there that you can then progress to the next stage of trimming the site map and the model to the farm dimensions, and then starting to add some features to it.